Hello everybody, this is a November 2020 budget Sky Striker deck profile. So I do have Infinite Impermanence, but what I don't have is Lightning Storm, and I feel like Lightning Storm is really what separates a budget from a non-budget Sky Striker deck at this point. So without Lightning Storm, I also wanted to not include my Infinite Impermanence and make this more of a budget, mid-range kind of build. But it's still a very strong deck versus any kind of decently older deck. This Sky Striker deck hits pretty hard, you know, versus these new crazy combo decks that make use of Link Cross and Crystron Halberbacks, Isolde, Infernobles, Equip Spells, anything, just these ridiculous infinite number of extender kind of decks that end on 2 Herald of the Arclights, and I have 2 cards in my hand. Versus those kind of decks, Sky Striker, this is a deck from last year, or maybe 2 years ago at this point. It's not going to hold up. But, you know, like I said, versus any slightly older deck, this deck still does really well with its control of the board with your quick play spells, your recurring with Kagari, just your keeping up of the resources with Ray from the graveyard, attacking directly with Hayate. Still a pretty strong deck here. So 3 Ray. This is definitely the all-star of the deck because it's got 2 really great effects. So you have a Link Monster, a Sky Striker Link Monster, and it leaves the field because of your opponent's card effect. You can bring Ray back pretty much every turn. You really only need 1 of them. And then you can use its quick effect, which is its first effect, to go into a Link Monster during your opponent's turn. So it's just constantly keeping up the board presence and, you know, recurring with Kagari on your opponent's turn. You know, if your Shizuku lasts to the end phase, you search on your opponent's turn, then you use that Shizuku for another Kagari on your turn, or you swap between the Link monsters, and Ray just facilitates the whole thing by continuously letting you bring back itself and quick effect go into Link monsters. So this is definitely one of the best cards in the deck and a must play at 3. So 1 Rose. You could probably play 2 Rose. I think it's fine in 1 personally. It is just kind of, it was a decently expensive card, so I only went for 1 just in this budget build here. It is a link climbing tool, I feel. It really has the opposite effect of Ray. You know, if your opponent's card in the extra monster zone leaves the field because of your card effect, you can special summon this card from the graveyard and then negate the effects of 1 face-up monster on the field. It's a way to maintain a board presence on your opponent's turn and then also have a little bit of interruption in there. But I feel like the most important part of Rose is that it's just 1 more monster. Really, the problem with Sky Striker kind of is and always has been, even though it's very strong, there's only like 5 cards in the main deck that can allow you to go into Link monsters. 3 Ray, 1 Rose, 1 Hornet Drones. This is just 1 more Sky Striker monster that you can normal summon and then go into your Link monsters. This card does special summon itself from the hand as well. So if you want to Link climb, you normal summon Ray, you special summon Rose from your hand. You can go into higher rating Link monsters. 3 Ash. So forgive me if this is a little bit out of budget. This is, like I said, kind of mid-range, not completely budget. But Ash, obviously still a great card. Obviously one of the top played cards in the game, along with Twin Twisters probably. Just this card stops so many game mechanics and is just a huge showstopper when you're going second, and it helps you keep you in the game when you're going second. 3 Veiler. So I've seen some Sky Striker builds, a lot of them, where they play 3 Veiler, 3 Impermanence, and 2 or even 3 Moonlit Chill. It's just for the ultimate in effect negation and effect lockdown. Veiler still does the job by itself in this, you know, trapless build that I have here, but still a very strong card to stop effects. 1 Ghost Ogre. Just, you know, this could be anything else. This could be another Sky Striker spell if you wanted to. I don't have Hercules base in my build. I only have 1 Eagle booster. You could bump any of those up, but, you know, this card is just removal of field spells of monsters that activated their effects. I think this card is still really good personally. 3 Widow Anchor. So this card is at 3 now. You know, even though Engage is banned, even though Multi-Roll's at 1, Hornet Drones is at 1, Widow Anchor is at 3, so this card is more effect negation in this build. It is also a way to steal your opponent's resources. So if you steal their resources, their monster, on their turn, you stop them from link climbing or synchro summoning or XYZ summoning. If you take their monster on your turn, you can use that monster as link material. This card is just a really good way to throw a wrench in the gears of what your opponent is doing, and hopefully you will be just climbing into higher monsters using their monsters as material. That's just the way to make the best use of this card. 3 Shark Cannon. This card is also very strong. Another way that you can, along with Widow Anchor and Mind Control, that you are climbing into your link 3s and 4s. Banishing 2, even if you don't have 3 spells in the graveyard, is still very strong. Playing against a deck like Infernoid, they always have cards in the graveyard, monsters in the graveyard that they're trying to bring back or banish from the graveyard, a special summon from their hand. So banishing preemptively, very strong. Just to mess with their graveyard, anything that targets in the graveyard, trying to bring it back. Shark Cannon is just a really strong card. 3 Afterburners. This card is really good too. Not playing Engage, you're trying to see more Sky Striker spells in your hand. It's hard to, without, Shizuku is really the only way to search in this deck now, and you just need to see more spells in your opening hand so you can establish your graveyard of 3 or more spells. This card is still really strong. It's definitely one that you probably want to bump up to 2 or 3, just to fill in those gaps that Engage is leaving behind. But this is a 2-for-1 card. You're popping a monster, popping a spell or trap. Seriously strong card to break your opponent's board. 2 Area Zero. This card is really good too. I thought it would be okay at 2 because I do play 1 Mystic Mine, but this card is kind of almost the replacement for Engage. I know it existed when Engage was around, but this is what you're relying on a lot. You could add a Metaverse into this build just to access this card a little quicker, so you can dig into your deck and kind of get your deck moving a little bit. Obviously doesn't replace Engage, but still your way to excavate and kind of choose what you want from the deck a little bit. Also got a very good effect when it's sent to the graveyard or leaves the field. Because of a card effect, you special summon Ray from the deck. So that's pretty much the main reason why I run MST in this main deck, is so if you don't see Ray, you only have 3 Rays and 1 Rose in this build. So it's in 1 Hornet Drone. So it can be hard to make your Link monsters if you don't see it in your opening hand. But hopefully you will pop your Area Zero with MST and go into Ray directly from the deck. And that's just how you can get your Link monsters with a little bit more guarantee, and then you'll end up with Area Zero and MST in your graveyard for 2 out of the 3 spells required for your super effects. 1 multi-roll. This is the one you want to search with Shizuku pretty much all the time. This card is extremely strong because it just brings back your Sky Striker spells over and over again. And it sets them to your field as well. So those quick plays, you can be activating them on your opponent's turn when it comes around after the end phase of this effect. This card also stops your opponent from chaining to your spells too, and this is the showstopper of the deck here. This is what makes the deck have the recurring that keeps it in the game turn after turn, and also makes your spells spell speed 4. 1 Ego Booster, 1 Jamming Waves, 1 Hornet Drones. I thought, this card is limited, but I thought these 2 were okay at 1. Not every deck is going to set spells and traps. This card you could bump up because it is nice to protect your Sky Striker Link monster from battle and card effects, but I think it's okay right now. Maybe drop out Jamming Waves, bump this up to 2. Maybe drop out Ghost Ogre, bump this up to 2. Totally up to you, but I think this is a decent way that I have it right now. 3 Foolish Burial Goods. Optional to play this card, but I think I do run Metal Foes Fusion, which can be just a great card in the deck as a draw engine, and this card does build up your graveyard as well. So I thought it does kind of fit in the deck because you're trying to send spells from deck to grave. Also, Metal Foes Fusion is not a complete brick. Well, I'll get there when I get to Metal Foes Fusion, but this card it establishes your graveyard. 3 MSD. This card pops Area Zero, obviously pops your opponent's back row. Just a good single card that you don't, not like Twin Twisters where you have to discard. Sometimes you're just trying to pop the area 0, or sometimes you just want to save your Sky Striker spells or the other cards in your hand for actual use and just pop one spell or trap. So MST is still a strong card. 2 Potted Desires. I really feel strongly about this. I played with 3 Potted Desires before. I would not recommend it. This deck does not do well with 3 Potted Desires. You don't want to Desires into Desires ever. You really just don't have enough attack power in this deck to finish your opponent that quickly, where you'll have enough draws to win to survive for more turns in the duel. You'll run out of cards in your deck if you activate or resolve Desires too many times. So I would keep this at 2, maybe even 1. It's actually kind of risky to play this at all because you don't want to banish all your monsters. 1 Rota to search the main deck monsters. Metalfoes Fusion. So this card is not only draw power, but if you do open it, which is just a total brick sometimes, as long as you have area 0, it's not a complete loss. You can set this card and pop it with area 0. This card, it is a hard once per turn, so if it gets negated, you can't use it from the graveyard, but I mean, it still works in the deck for draw power. This deck, Potted Desires, Upstart, Metalfoes Fusion, those are your draw engines. Terraforming to search, Mystic Mine, and area 0. Mystic Mine, this card keeps you in the game when you're on the losing end of the duel. Maybe your multi-roll got popped. Maybe you don't have the resources that you thought you would going into the duel or earlier on in the duel. Mystic Mine, if you draw it later on in the duel and they just have a huge board, sometimes they can do nothing about Mystic Mine. So this is just your second strategy, your last resort strategy. Mystic Mine, I've always thought this card was honestly stupid. This card is stupid. It doesn't belong in the game, but it is still really deadly if you do use it. Mind Control to help you go into the links, and then also Upstart Goblin to put a spell in the graveyard and cut the deck down by 1. So extra deck, I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly. Kagaria 3 just to recur. You definitely want to play 3 Kagari, you definitely want to play 3 Shizuku, and you definitely want to play 3 Hayate. These cards are absolutely necessary to recur, to search at the end phase, and to attack directly, and also establish your graveyard here. These cards do mess with attack to Kagari and Shizuku, but you're going to be going through multiple of these in one turn, because you can link summon one of these and then use it as material for another one. They're all hard ones per turns, or the ones that do have effects are hard ones per turns, but you will be going through one after another one over and over again, turn after turn. So you want to play all 3 of these cards at 3, no doubt. We got 1 Kanum. This card is really only good to stop your opponent with a high attack monster during their turn. When you quick effect Ray into Kana during their turn, it allows you to stall 1 more turn. So this card is fine at 1, but it should be in the extra deck at 1 at least. 1 Zeke, I don't really find myself using this card. It's just good removal. It's a decent link too. You have your Ray on the field or your Rose. You Mind Control or Widow Anchor their monster. You can banish 1 monster. It's good removal of a monster. It's just a solid link too in this deck. It can also boost its own attack. Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, Top Logic Bomber Dragon, Borrelsword. Those are the last 4 extra deck monsters here. Just solid all around cards here. I thought these would just be removal of sorts. Borrelsword is what you need to close out games. You desperately need Borrelsword in this deck because all of these monsters have 1500 attack. It can be very slow to win the game. Good thing this deck has very strong ability to recur resources, but sometimes Borrelsword can close out the game a lot faster than you otherwise would be able to. And this card is just for your Shark Cannon, pretty much. You want a Shark Cannon underneath Bomber Dragon if you can make it, if you can make that play and blow up the board. So that's pretty much the budget Sky Striker deck for November 2020. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.